Moving back to West Texas from Central Texas was like being shoved backward into a place I didn't want to be. Dad had been transferred, and the decision was final. No discussion, no debate. Packing up our lives wasn't just exhausting, it was stressful in a way that felt almost physical, like a weight pressing against your chest. My sister was the hardest hit. She had friends she loved, a life she knew, and the sudden upheaval seemed to drain the color from her cheeks. I was younger, so I didn't quite understand what home really meant yet, but I felt the tension everywhere. Even Mom seemed different, tight-lipped, constantly distracted, and always checking the boxes we packed as if she feared something might escape unnoticed. The house Dad got us was older than anything I'd lived in before, a two-story structure sitting on a rise outside town. It looked worn but solid from the outside, weathered siding, cracked windows, a sagging porch. Inside, the air smelled like dust, old wood, and a faint, indefinable odor I couldn't place. The floors groaned under every step, and the walls seemed to hum, not audibly, but in a way that made my skin crawl. From the first night, I felt it. The house wasn't empty. Something lived here, something that had waited a long time. The first weekend was about painting. Mom and my sister went upstairs to prep the hallway. Mom took the far right side, slow and meticulous as always. My sister, restless and impatient, took the far left. The middle wall remained untouched, a blank canvas, smooth and innocent, waiting for color. I stayed downstairs, packing boxes and trying to distract myself from the heat and dust. Occasionally, I heard the faint scraping of paintbrushes on plaster, the soft swish of rollers, but otherwise, the house was silent. Then my sister came running down the stairs, her face white, her eyes wide with something I couldn't name. "You have to come upstairs. Now," she said, voice trembling. There was no exaggeration, no drama, just raw, undeniable fear. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Just come. Don't ask," she said. Her tone made my stomach tighten. I followed her, my steps hesitant. The air upstairs felt heavier, almost suffocating. Sunlight poured through the windows, but it didn't feel bright. It felt muted, gray, filtered through some unseen lens that dulled everything. Mom was frozen in the hallway, brush in hand, staring at the wall like she'd seen a ghost. Then I saw it. Across the middle of the wall, the untouched middle, was writing, or something like it. Broad strokes, deliberate, made as if a giant hand had pressed into the plaster and dragged downward. The shapes weren't letters I recognized. Not English, not cursive, just jagged arcs, sweeping curves, sweeping downward strokes that looked intentional and urgent. The problem? The marks were too big for any human hand, too deliberate, too precise, and none of us had touched that wall. "Mum," I whispered. "What is that?" Mom didn't answer at first. Her knuckles were white around the brush handle. "It's impossible," she said finally. "No one was there." "I wasn't near the middle," my sister said, voice breaking. "I was over there. You were over there. Nobody touched the center." I stepped closer. The strokes seemed alive. Subtle ripples along the surface appeared in my peripheral vision, like the wall itself was breathing. My stomach churned. Then came the smell. At first it was faint, like damp soil or old wood. Then it thickened, metallic and sour. My sister gagged. "It smells wrong," she whispered. The hallway fell into a heavy silence, as if the house itself was holding its breath. And then we heard it, a knock, soft, measured, from inside the wall. 1, 2, 3. Not random, not the sound of old wood settling, deliberate, testing us, waiting. My sister screamed, clutching my arm. A pause, then scraping. Low, guttural, dragging across the wall. The sound traced the strokes of the writing over and over, as if something unseen was rehearsing its message. I don't remember deciding to run. My legs moved before my mind could register. We stumbled down the stairs, through the front door, into the blinding sunlight, gasping for air. Mom grabbed her keys. My sister and I clung together. Even outside, I felt it. The house pressing against us, unseen, patient. We didn't return that day, or the next. When we finally dared to go back, the wall was blank, smooth. Nothing remained. No writing, no traces, not a single mark. We all knew it hadn't disappeared. It had only gone dormant, waiting. Days passed. I couldn't sleep. Every creak of my own house sounded like scraping paint. Every gust of wind whispered through the windows like a warning. Sometimes, when the house was silent, I thought I could hear faint knocking in the walls, slow and measured. Weeks later, Dad finally went upstairs alone to inspect the wall. He came back pale, but said nothing. For the rest of our stay, he avoided that hallway entirely. Mom refused to discuss it, and my sister would wake up at night, whispering about shadows moving at the end of the hall. Even after we moved out, I couldn't escape it. The strokes, the smell, the dragging sound, they haunted me. I could picture the broad, sweeping shapes in my mind, moving in rhythm with that slow, deliberate knocking. One night, I was alone in my bedroom reading when the floorboards groaned below me. A soft tap, tap, tap echoed through the walls, faint but deliberate. My heart hammered. I froze. The sound grew louder, closer, scraping, dragging. Something moved just beyond the plaster, retracing the strokes I had seen on the wall. I could feel it, pressing against the very structure of the house, aware of my presence, patient, waiting. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. That night, I was alone in my room when the sound started. Tap, 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 slow, deliberate, from inside the walls. My heart hammered. The scraping began next, low and guttural, moving along the plaster as if tracing invisible shapes. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. The air grew thick, metallic, suffocating. Then I saw it, an impossibly large hand pressing against the wall, smearing dark streaks in sweeping curves I couldn't recognize. A whisper hissed from everywhere at once. "Do you see now?" I couldn't move. My body was frozen. The scraping stopped. Silence fell, but the weight remained, pressing down, watching, patient. I realized the truth. It had never left, and next time, it wouldn't stay on the wall.